Let's take a look at how to create and modify a pivot table in Excel. To start, you click in the middle of a table that you'd like to use as a pivot table. I will come up to my Insert menu, and from the Tables group on the left, I will go ahead and choose Pivot Table. The first setting tells you the range that it's going to create the pivot table. It's going to come down and tell me that I'm going to create this on a new worksheet. Everything looks good. I'll go ahead and click OK. And down here I see that I have a brand new Sheet tab with a pivot table ready to load. To add fields to the pivot table, you can either select them from your list of fields here, or you can click and drag them down to the areas of the pivot table below. To start this, I will come up and click on the salesperson, ship date, product name, and quantity, and I see the fields loaded up down below. I could have easily just had come up and clicked on salesperson and drug it down here and dropped it inside my list. If you have any numeric fields or date fields, they will show up in the values box automatically and be used in the mathematics on the right column of the table. I would like to change the label over here on the left for my quantity from sum of quantity to total quantity sold. To do this, I will come over to my pivot table field list, and from the values box in the sum of quantity, I will click the drop down arrow and choose value field settings. And up here at the top where it says custom name, it's already highlighted with sum of quantity. I will go ahead and type in total quantity sold. Down below, instead of summing the aggregate, I could do a count, average, max, min, product, as well as some other basic functions as well. I'm going to come down and choose number format, and from number format I'll make sure that I'm on the number format under the category. And over on the right hand side I will choose the number 2 and select the zeros to tell it that I don't want any decimal places. However, I would like to use the comma for the thousands separator. So I'll click on that, and then I'll click OK, and click OK again. And I can see that my label over here is total quantity sold, and I see that I'm now getting a comma over here in my thousands place. If I view my pivot table on the left, I can see that I have a salesperson, Andrew Fuller, and I can currently see on January 1st the products that Andrew sold, as well as the 5th, the 7th, the 8th, and so on and so forth. If I collapse the minus sign next to his name, I can see other salespeople as well, and I could go ahead and collapse their names to view just the salesperson's name and see the total quantity sold on the right hand side. I would like to maybe just see one salesperson at a time or a handful of salespeople, but not all of them. There's just too much data to sift through. To do this, I'd like to add a master filter, if you will, or a report filter. I will go ahead and I will grab the salesperson to the report filter here in the report filter box. The salesperson shows up over on the left, and I can see it above my pivot table, and I will go ahead and click the drop down arrow. Now I'm going to go ahead and choose select multiple items. It will select all the salespeople currently being shown. I will uncheck all, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose Ann Dodsworth, and I'll go ahead and click OK. And I see just Ann Dodsworth sales. Next, I'd like to add a second filter underneath the salesperson for the report filter to filter by date. So I'm going to come to ship date over here on the right, and I'm going to drag it down below salesperson. And now I see a second level of filtering for the report. I will choose the drop down arrow, and I'll go ahead and select multiple items, and I will uncheck all, and I will come back and check just the January dates. And I will click OK. And now I just see the sales that Ann Dodsworth had made for the month of January. Next, I'd like to group the products over on the left by the company name. I will scroll up, I will choose company name and drag it down below product name. And then over on the left, I can go ahead and see each company that is shipped by the product above. At any time, you can come out here to your row labels or your column labels, and you could go ahead and reorganize these any way you'd like. If I'd like to see company name on top of product name, I could set it up that way, and now I see the company name above the products that that company name provides. If I'd like to see the company over under the column labels, I could do that as well. Likewise, I could swap these and put products along the top and the company name along the left. Also, if you didn't want to see the pivot table field list, you could click on your pivot table tab under the options group, and you could come out here and choose field list to turn off the field list. If you didn't want to see the buttons on the left hand side under the labels, you could turn off the buttons. As well, you could turn off the field headers to not show the field headers up above the data on the top here. I'll turn off my field list to make a bit more room. I'd like to display the subtotals underneath the bottom for each grouping here on my table on the left. I'll come out here to Pivot Table, Options, Design, and over on the left under Subtotals, I will choose Show All Subtotals at the bottom of, and now I see the subtotals for Berglund's, Bottom Dollar Markets, Island Trading down here at the bottom underneath the grouping. If I'd like to add some style to the table, Pivot Table Tools Design provides pivot table styles, and I could come out here and I could add some sort of coloring scheme to my table. I could also add banded rows, and that adds some underline for a little more visual detail on the table itself. At any time, I can come back and click on my Invoices tab and have a look at my invoices. I could go back to sheet 5 as well. I could also make multiple copies of these sheets just by dragging and holding down the control key if I like to have multiple pivot tables to demonstrate different ways of viewing the same data.